In this video, I'm gonna show you how to use Lightroom with just 4 easy steps that will hopefully make your experience just a lot less complicated. Lightroom does have a lot of features and it can be quite a jungle to figure out how to use everything to create your art. But the truth is that you don't need to know everything, especially if you're just starting out. So in this video, I'm just gonna share the absolute essentials that you need to know to get started with editing in Lightroom. And the rest you can just learn along the way. First step is to import your photo and make sure that you shoot your photos in RAW to have as much information as possible in the editing process. In the left, right over here, you can see your SD card and hard drive or whatever it is that you're using. So click that, and then I usually just uncheck everything just to make it a little bit easier, and then I check all the photos that I need. But don't start sorting the photos now because we're gonna do that later. So if there's any photos that you know you're gonna delete, of course just don't check them, but otherwise just keep them for now and we'll sort them later. Once you have all your photos selected, you go to the right hand side where you can see all your folders on your computer, and then you just find the subfolder or something that you want to import your photos to. And then you press import. Once the photos are imported into the folder that I chose, I'm gonna rename the folder to the year, the month, and the date. And then just like whatever I wanna call this shoot. So for this, it's 2020 0830. And then I just chose to call it hands because there's hands in my face. It doesn't really matter. It's just to make it a lot easier if you want to find that exact photo, maybe 2 years from now. I usually didn't do this, and it just took so much more time every time I had to go find an old photo or something. So this really just made my whole workflow a lot easier. So let me know if you want to see a video just on organization and how to organize your photos and all that stuff. It really is a game changer, and it saved me a lot of time after I started to do this. But yeah, I think it's something you underestimate a lot when you're starting out. That's what I did at least, and it wasn't fun when I had to clean up all that mess. So let me know if you would like to see that. Next, I'm creating subfolders. So I just right click and press the button create folder inside whatever the folder is called. First I create one called capture, and this is just where I put all the raw files. Then I create a new one and call it select. So this is if I want to like make a composite where I have to merge together maybe 3 images or so. Then I put those 3 individual images in there. And then I have a new folder called master. So this is like the big project that I'm working on, and you know, the file where I put all the different images together and all that stuff. And then a final subfolder called output. And this is just for the final piece. Finally, I'm just selecting all the photos and putting them into the capture folder. Next step is to review and select the photos that you're gonna use. I do this by heading over to the develop module right over here. So then I'm actually just going through all the photos and rating them from 1 to 5. I find this the easiest way to do it, and the way you do it is just you tap 1 on your keyboard if you're gonna rate it with 1, and 5 if you're gonna rate it with 5, and you know, in that way. So you just go through every single photo and rate it. And once you've finished, you can see all those 5 stars right here. Then I usually tap 4, and then it will show me all the photos that I've rated with 4 or higher. Then I go through them once again, and if I don't see enough photos, then I go maybe down to 3 stars or higher and see if there's any that I could use instead. That way I'll end up with the photos that I want to work on. Step 3 is to edit. So I usually start out by going through all my presets and just kind of like to get some inspiration and see what I like. I think the thing that people often misunderstand with presets is that you just put it on and you're done. You're not. You still have to go through the photo and edit it and all that stuff, just because otherwise it's just gonna look like some ugly filter from Instagram that you put on top, and we don't want that. I think I'm just gonna go with the stall preset and then work from that. I'm just gonna start out by going to the basics and pulling down the exposure a bit because I think it was a little bit too bright. Then adjusting the whites a bit and the shadows and the blacks just to make it fit the photo a little bit more. Then I'm gonna head over to the tone curve, and this tone curve is a little bit intense, but just gonna experiment a little bit and see where the different dots is like hitting my photo, if that makes sense. And then deleting one because I think it's unnecessary to have this many dots. And then kind of making the shadows a little bit darker just to, yeah, have some more contrast in the photo. Next I'm gonna head over to the reds tone curve and play a little bit with that, and the same with the green and the blue. I don't really think I did a lot with this, but just a little bit. Every time I go through a section in this editing thingy, I always tap on this corner on the left where you can kind of like remove the things that you put on top. For example, here with the tone curve, I'm removing it just to see how it looked before and after the tone curve was put on. And I think that is very helpful because it's clear that if it looks better without the tone curve, you've done something wrong and then you need to go back and change it. So next I'm heading over to the HSL section and just playing a little bit with the oranges and the yellows and the reds, and the other colors I'm not really gonna use that much in this photo, so yeah, not doing a lot, just tweaking it a little bit. Doing the same thing with turning the split toning on and off just to see what it really does to the photo, and I don't like what it did that much, so I'm just gonna change it a little bit. I actually like the highlights being a little bit cooler, so yeah, I'm changing that and then keeping the shadows in the reds. Next I'm heading over to detail and just zooming in on my photo. It's a self-portrait, so oftentimes it's not in focus. Yeah, I'm still working on that. So I'm just sharpening it a bit, and then I'm reducing the color noise just because sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't really make a difference. But yeah, the transform and effects I don't really use that much. I think effects you can put on grain and stuff like that, and that is pretty cool as well. But I'm gonna take this photo into Photoshop later, so I'm still gonna make some adjustments after I did the whole composite thingy, so I'm not gonna concentrate too much on that. Then I'm heading over to calibration and just kind of like seeing what this preset did with that, and I kind of like how it was already, so that's what I'm gonna roll with. And here's the before and after. I think it's okay. Maybe it's a little bit too bright, the skin tone, so I'm just gonna work on that a little bit and make the shadows not as bright and stuff like that, because I think when I compared it to the before, it was pretty clear that I maybe made it a little too bright. So yeah, just changing that. So the final step is to export. So you just right click on your photo and then you go to export and export right here. Yeah, and the settings really depend on what you're gonna use it for. I'm just gonna show you what I do if I'm gonna use it for web, and then for continuing to edit it in Photoshop later. And so for web, I always used a JPEG, and then you can really set your quality from between 80 and 100. Just like 80 if you want your file to be a little bit smaller, but I always just use 100 to make the quality as good as possible. And then I use 1024 pixels. I actually don't know why you do that, but I just think that that's the number that Instagram likes the most. Yeah, you can Google it, it's true. Now, if you're gonna export it to edit it further in Photoshop, I'm gonna use the format TIFF file, because I don't know, I just really like TIFFs, because you can open it in almost everything and it saves layers, so that's pretty helpful. The bit I set to 16 just because it's high and we want to have as much information as possible. Then I'm just gonna hit export, and then I'm gonna go into pictures and then choose my 2020 folder, and then I'm pretty quickly gonna find the folder that I just made because I organized it well. And then I'm gonna choose the selects folder because I'm gonna put the same preset on a lot of photos, and then I'm gonna put them all together in Photoshop later. And I really hope this was helpful. If it was, please give it a like and comment down below if you have any like Lightroom hacks and stuff like that, and then we could just like collect all the Lightroom hacks and help each other out in that way. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the little bell button to be notified every time I post a new video. I'm actually trying to upload a video twice a week, so if you don't, you're gonna miss out. Here's my Instagram, and until next time, bye.